I think it's funny that Gollum can't find Bilbo for 60 years, but stumbles upon Frodo as soon as he steps foot into Moria.
I just thought Gollum didn't know where the Shire was. All he knew was Baggins' Shire, which is what he tells whoever's torturing him exactly in Barad-dûr. And he may have overheard then something because the Nazgûl are released right away and they head to the Shire. Sauron or someone had an inkling where the Shire was. Once Gollum escapes or is released, he finds his way out of Mordor because he had to meet Shelob at some point then.
Yeah, that was probably how he left, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then could his plan be to travel through Moria to get through the mountain pass? The same way that the Fellowship is just traveling through Moria to get through the mountain without trying to draw attention to themselves, because Gollum, he isn't going to want to be captured again by either side, so traveling out in the open is not an option.
Yeah, and Gollum's very... He doesn't like... Oh shit, again, I can't remember if this is the fucking...
cold?
I was gonna say, he doesn't like the sun, does he? But then I don't know if that's like fucking mentioned in the films.
I mean, it could be reasonable that they coincidentally cross paths, and plus you have the commotion of the Dwarven Gate collapsing. He might want to check that out, you know what I mean? We know he's following him before the Balrog.
Yes.
Which, how did he get over the bridge after its collapse? Maybe he found an alternate way. Who knows? But he's quite the tracker.
He is. Yeah.
And the question I wanted to ask was, in Minas Morgul, why didn't they just stab Gollum with the Morgul blade and turn him into a wraith, and then he can track down the ring as well under Sauron's control? Is that how it works?
That might have been, maybe they didn't want him to be a wraith and hanging around forever.
Ew,
You know?
so
He would be
creepy.
pretty annoying. I mean, could a ring bearer become a ring wraith? I mean, it seems like a conflict of interest.
Now, we need to bring this up at your next corporate, your appraisal. You keep, like, taking, like, the ring, and we kind of need it for our boss. It's like, well...
Gollum sure does have a keen sense of direction, though. Knowledge of the Darklands. What, did he graduate from the Mordor University?
Okay, I laughed so hard when I read that one. Well, again, like, I wish we had a timeline for how long Gollum was in Mordor. Because, again, he had to have met Shelob at some point because he knows about her.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to avoid her, but also, you get the feeling, although it isn't implied, that he led orcs to her.
Did he?
I mean, it's possible that they even followed him in there because he knows that they don't taste very good.
Well,
Wine.
he ate goblins
I was going to
in
say...
Misty Mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about the Dead Marshes? You guys find it believable that he could navigate that terrain, not just once, but then twice, going the reverse way?
Because you're not really sure where Gollum's been, because he was wandering for quite a while, sort of paranoid and stuff, before he settled at the Misty Mountains. You don't actually know where he went before that, so I guess it's like up in the air how much of Middle-earth he's just kind of travelled on his own while being like isolated.
I also think it is believable that he can navigate the marshes because before the ring got a hold of him, he was known as river folk. Frodo mentions this. You were not so different from a hobbit. At home in the water, around the water, and because he is a good tracker, it is possible that he was able to find a route through the marshes.
I think it's kind of believable that he could remember miles of complex terrain that's too dangerous to be traveled, albeit amazing that he made it the first time. But he's been alive for 500 years, living in complete darkness. So one would have to be adept at memorizing every step that they take.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because he's living in darkness, he'll have to memorize. So he's already used to that. However, the problem that I have is while he lives in that cave for 500 years, long enough to forget his own name, he knows the history of the Dead Marshes. And he knows when the ring wraiths are calling out to his precious.
Gollum's an interesting character, isn't it? Because there's so much of his history you don't know, and yet you know a lot about it. So it's a very strange like middle ground with him, because you don't know exactly where he's been and what he's doing, but you know why he's been doing a lot of stuff. So you can't really say exactly what he's been doing. But then it's like, oh, but he's done this, and you're like, I can kind of believe it because it's kind of vague as well, and it doesn't ruin what he can do because Gollum's not strong, but he's got
Crafty.
you know like
He's-
by God he's a survivor, you know.
Crafty. Crafty is the right word, I think.
Yeah.
But not only is he one character, he's two characters, right? He's Smeagol and he's Gollum. And what is Gollum but the corruption of the ring? So maybe, just maybe, the criticism that I'm bringing up, maybe Gollum knows that information based on Sauron's spirit, which is corrupting him.
You know, that could be because he had the ring for so long.
Yeah,
And
500
he
years.
did
He
talk to the
might.
ring and stuff, so...
You know that thing about because he does have that two personalities. Is that thing that happens just from the ring, or is that kind of more unique to him? A lot of the stuff is him trying to justify to himself. It's like how when he, again, this is the Hobbit more so, but you know, him calling the ring his birthday present and stuff because it's like, this is mine, I earned it, even though he killed his friend over it, you know. So Gollum was never, it wasn't like Gollum was a nice guy before he got the ring.
Let's assume that Gollum, Sam, and Frodo got lost and they didn't navigate it well, and they died out there in the Dead Marsh. What would happen to the ring at that point?
To be so close and yet so far away.
It's always a bit in the air about what the ring can do, isn't it? Because like the ring is quite chill to wait. Although Sauron's obviously is quite impatient to get back into its thing, the ring itself is more just doing its thing that it's always been doing and just getting back to Sauron in the best way in your house. So in theory, I think if they died, it would probably in and of itself just chill until anything that came by, and it would be like, "Come to me, pick me up. You know you want to."
I mean, maybe the ring would wait long enough for a drought until the whole swamp had dried up and then people could be on that land again. I mean, it might be like the 10th age at that point, but you never know.
A passing fish. Pick me up. Pick me up. The invisible fish just swimming around for eternity.
Yeah, I mean, if that didn't happen, if it wasn't just like a random, beast or something that came along to get it, I think during the Third Age it would just be lost. Because the orcs wouldn't be able to get to it. Nobody's traveling those lands because it's basically unnavigatable, if that's a word. Sauron doesn't have a body, So
Yeah, it would
just
sit
sit out there.
Just be like, it would just have to fucking wait until eventually time moved forward enough for something to be able to go there. Which in theory could still happen, but Sauron would be like, I made all my plans for this, and that fucking ring of mine got lost in the fucking marsh and made me wait another 10,000 years.
Directed by Ryan Johnson.
Can you imagine, like the ring gets lost, Sauron realizes doesn't know where it is, and he just sends a note to Gondor. We're calling it off. There's no point doing this now. We'll do it again later.
Do you think had Sam carried the ring from that point, do you think he could have destroyed it from the point that Frodo supposedly died? Do you think Sam would have threw it in?
I think it's debatable because obviously you don't know how much of that ring has its pull over anyone. But
I mean, you have to account for Gollum too, because he's still alive.
I was more on the assumption that if Sam was in the position Frodo was in, just holding the ring over, would he throw it? And I'm like, I actually don't know, because even though the answer most people would say is probably yes, I'm like, yeah, but the ring is proper fucks with you, like even instantly. Like Sam had a moment of not giving it back to Frodo for it set, didn't he? Remember when when Frodo's there and Sam like holds it and looks at the ring. He does give it back, but he has that second of like, wait, this is the ring of like it's because it's already getting to him because he's only had it for like an hour.
Yeah, but is that the ring getting to him, or is that him drawing it back because of Frodo?
I don't know. It's debatable, isn't it? Sauron's growing in power. The ring was always getting stronger the closer it got to Mordor. The ring also got heavier as well as it got close to the Mount Doom because it obviously wants to be a burden. I don't know. There's a lot going on. It's very interesting. The ring mechanic is very interesting in the Lord of the Rings story.
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He would have become the new king of Mordor. With his frying pans, he would have cooked the world.
One
Boil 'em,
frying pan
mash
at a
'em,
time.
Stick 'em in a stew.
If you like this video and you want to check out some more Lord of the Rings content, click on this video or check out my playlist.